Hi, welcome to Curanostics. My name is Kyla. I'm a marketing intern with this company. Today I'm joined with Marisol to discuss her chronic illness story and her experience using Curanostics. To start us off, would you like to introduce yourself just for us to get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. My name is Marisol. I'm a third year university student studying statistics with a certificate in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. Um, I have celiac disease and I've been diagnosed with it for about 4 years.
Glad to have you here with us today. So would you be able to tell us a little bit more about that chronic illness that you have and how it impacts your daily life? What's it like living with it now and how you came about to find out that you have this disease?
Sure. So, like I said, I have celiac disease, and if you don't know, it's an autoimmune disease that targets the lining of your small intestine, and the only treatment is eliminating gluten from your diet entirely, including no cheat days and no cross contact to the tune of 20 parts per million. So, basically everything I eat has to be prepared in an entirely gluten free environment or very carefully. And uh, the things in if so the reason that you have to eat entirely gluten free is because the lining of your small intestine um, is targeted by your immune cells when you eat gluten if you have celiac disease. And if the lining of your small intestine is damaged, and especially if you have celiac disease, it's like long-term damage that gets progressively worse. Then you can't absorb nutrients from the food that you are eating, and um, over a very long period of time, in theory, you would become more and more nutrient deficient or malnourished, which obviously has significant other possible long-term health impacts besides the physical symptoms that you could feel. And you have to be entirely gluten free for the rest of your life. Like, it doesn't go away because it's not an autoimmune disease. When I was a sophomore in high school, my sister actually was experiencing a lot of digestive symptoms. And she went to a GI doctor who ran a bunch of tests and diagnosed her with celiac disease. And I actually wasn't experiencing symptoms that we know of. But there's a strong genetic link. And so if somebody in your family is diagnosed, then they typically try to screen your whole family, like especially immediate family, with a blood test. And then they continue to do that like every 5 years or so if you don't have it. But obviously, by the end of the next school year, I had been diagnosed with celiac disease. And so by the spring of my junior year, I was diagnosed. And in order to be diagnosed, you have to make an appointment with the GI doctor. And because I was a minor, I had to find a pediatric GI specialist. And we made an appointment, and they ordered blood tests, which can indicate if you have celiac disease or not, but then you have to get an endoscopy to confirm. And so I had the appointment and we got the blood test, and then we had to make another appointment where he was like, okay, now we have to go do this endoscopy, so you have to make an appointment and you have to go to this hospital. So the doctor that I was going to isn't actually part of the hospital, but because you have to be put under anesthesia and stuff, they have to do it through a hospital. And then an endoscopy basically is where they put you under, and then they put a scope down your throat through your esophagus and your stomach and into your small intestine, and they take a bunch of pictures, and then they excise parts of your small intestine to like examine them for damage. And then I had another doctor's appointment where he was like, okay, you have celiac disease, blah, blah, blah. You have to be entirely gluten free now for the rest of your life. So you should go see a dietitian. And then basically, for the next 2 years, I had doctor's appointments probably every 6 months, where they do blood tests to monitor your progress of healing your small intestine. And I was vitamin D deficient at the time, and to see if I had overcome that, I guess. And so now basically, I only have to see a doctor every 1 year, once a year, I guess would be the better way to say that. And in the meantime, I have to maintain an entirely gluten free life, which means I have to look at um, every product I buy from the grocery store. I have to look at every nutrition label and to determine if it would actually be safe or not, because gluten isn't considered an allergen, so it's not always listed explicitly, and it can be in the natural flavorings or natural ingredients at the very end of the ingredient list. And then I have to vet every restaurant that I eat at, and I have to consider, this person made me gluten free food because they wanted to include me, but do they really know what that means? And I had to replace all of my kitchen things and maintain everything entirely separate. So the only things that I share with my roommates now are forks, basically forks and knives, and that's it. Cutlery is the only thing we share. And you have to put a lot of time and thought into carefully considering every item that you eat, and if you're going out somewhere, if you're going out with friends, will I only have a soda that I can drink there, or do I need to bring my own food? Am I gonna show up to somebody's house with Chipotle this weekend? We'll find out.
So you visited the doctor often before. So you said again, it's like once a year thing, was it? Where you have to visit now? Okay, so I've done my own a little bit of research, especially considering you have celiac, so I've looked into it a little bit. But I know complications can happen over time, and it really just depends on how you're going about taking care of yourself in terms of your chronic disease. So prior to this meeting, I had sent Marisol the link to our beta app for Curanostics. With this app, we hope to simplify health data by placing all your documents and records into one central location that's understandable and accessible to anyone. The app is very personalized and tailored towards your health journey so that you can control your health data and in a secure and simple fashion. So have you had a chance to look at this and make it account yet so far?
Yes, I have.
And how is that going for you? Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I really appreciate the visit and diagnosis history sections. Like I've had a lot of doctor's appointments over the past 4 years, and I've actually been to three separate GI doctors at three separate practices that each have their own different platform to look at your health records on. And some of them I can't even get full access because they were pediatric institutions, and they don't believe me that I'm an adult now, and so I can be able to access my full records. And I've walked out of doctor's appointments and looked at my chart, and I've had doctors write oh, I couldn't find evidence of the diagnosis in her chart, of my celiac disease
Hmm.
diagnosis. And so of all people, I feel like the doctors definitely have that information. They just couldn't find it. But I think that medical advocacy and being able to take ownership and understand your own health is really important. And having it all in one place is especially convenient when it's spread apart so much. And so I could have been talking to that doctor and been no, I know exactly what doctor and what day I was actually diagnosed. It should be in there. This was the institute that I was at. This was the doctor I was with. These were my endoscopy results. And I think that could be really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of our biggest features with Curanostics to keep all your data in one place that you can advocate for yourself in situations like these. We hope to make all aspects of the healthcare journey into one easy to manage place for each patient. And I know you don't go to the doctors as often as you do now, but do you see this helping you in the future if complications, hopefully not, were to occur in terms of your celiac or other health conditions even?
Yeah, I think so. I think that being able to streamline all of your medical health information is really convenient or important. Like having a long medical history is something that's going to follow, it's just going to keep getting longer and longer, and I'm just going to keep accumulating more and more test results because they test my blood for I get 7 vials of blood drawn every time I go see my GI doctor. And so I have a laundry list of test results. And so as that as I go forward, they're like testing to make sure that I don't develop like a thyroid condition, because if you have celiac disease, then you're predisposed to having a thyroid condition, and like that I don't have any vitamin deficiencies, and then they test like my progress of like my healing, and also like the standard blood tests that they do. And I've also had like DEXA bone density scans, and a lot of these are like they can provide a snapshot shot of like, oh, you were anemic whatever this one time. I've never been anemic, but just like as an example. um, and like that information could be like really useful in the long run. And if I've like moved on to a different doctor, it could be kind of hard to find, like if I haven't logged into that MyChart account in 7 years, like it would be like a lot more difficult to try to communicate things that I already knew to a doctor that like maybe doesn't have access to that information, or like didn't want to go that far back in my history.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important to have all these things in like one place, especially like if things change over time, like different doctors, or if things get worse, or like if you have other medical conditions that come up that might interact with this. And we at Curanostics really want to make your health journey as smooth as possible, and as easy as possible. We know, while everything else can get really like messy and complicated, especially with like healthcare and chronic illness, we hope to take off at least like one more load of stress, than what you already have. Thank you so much again for being here with me today. I hope you have a great weekend and continue to find support through our app services.
Thank you.